Welcome, everybody, to this podcast. Today, we're going to be talking about the violence in America. So, I think that it's pretty much undeniable at this point, and I think that this is a kind of a moment where foreigners are looking at the U.S. and being like, you see what I mean?" What I'm specifically referring to is the assassination attempt of former President Donald Trump over the weekend, and I think that is yet another dark moment in what will be the history of America, that where guns are just out of control, and there's so much violence and division in the country. So that's what we're going to talk about in the context of the assassination attempt. Before we begin, I want to invite you all to hit that subscribe button and also click the bell and select all, and that way you'll know when we upload future videos. Now, when we talk about this topic, there's going to be some words and vocabulary that you guys might not know, and so I just want to quickly go over some of these words that you're going to hear, and you may not have ever even heard these words, but you'll come across them when you read about when you read the news or when you watch other YouTube videos describing the whole assassination attempt. Anyway, some of the words you might come across and might not know, and I'll tell you real quick before we start the discussion. Here are the words. Would-be assassin. What's a would-be assassin? Protectee. Counter sniper. How about detail, as in security detail? Neutralize. Accountability. So let me quickly go over these terms. Security detail. So what does detail mean in this context? It just basically means the security plan, the group of people that protects an individual. That's the detail, the plan, and the group of people involved, the collective group of people and plan in a security plan. We call that a detail, security detail. Okay, neutralize. Neutralize is sort of a clinical, neutral word to use to describe somebody. Like for example, the shooter was neutralized. So we made him, or we rendered him incapable of causing further harm. They purposely use this word rather than saying, yeah, we blew his head off, right? So we don't want to get too graphic. So they use this word neutralize just to avoid emotionally charged language, which is basically to stop the threat. Protectee, you may not have heard that word, and in fact most of us don't even use that word. Protectee, protector. Protector is somebody who protects another person. Protectee, ending in tee, that's the ending. Protectee is the person who is being protected. So President Trump was the protectee. Okay, you might hear accountability. Accountability is when we ask somebody, or excuse me, we find out who is responsible for what happened. Maybe there was an oversight, or there was a breach, or a lapse in appropriate measures. So accountability is who's responsible for this. Accountability. And also, lastly, would-be assassin. Would-be assassin. Now, you know, an assassin is somebody who kills somebody, right? A would-be assassin, we say that the shooter is a would-be assassin because the shooter actually didn't kill Donald Trump. If he did, then he would be an assassin, but because he was prevented from actually killing somebody, he was prevented from assassinating somebody, he is a would-be assassin. If the person died, then he becomes an assassin. So that's it. So those are the vocabulary that you might encounter in our discussion, as well as on your own when you're perusing news or watching YouTube videos. But without further ado, I'd like to welcome our friend and guest. We've got Leon here. Leon, how are you?
Good, Ben. How's it going, man?
Good,
How's
good.
everything
Welcome.
been? Yeah.
Good,
Hey,
thank you.
everyone. Awesome.
All right, so you heard the news over the weekend. Was it shocking? Did you see the videos? Have you been following
Yeah.
media?
I mean, it was completely shocking to me. I mean, I saw some pop up, post of what was going on, that he was injured. I didn't
Mhm.
think anything much of it. And then when I found the time, I started looking at it, and it was like, wow. I mean, there was like an assassination attempt at the former President Trump in his rally in Pennsylvania. I mean, that was really surprising. And I didn't think nothing much of it until I started watching the video. So, Yeah, it completely shocked me. I mean, what did you think about it?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Because we both are currently living outside the US. I'm in Europe, and whenever I meet locals and speak to them about America, I'm always sort of defending the US, like, oh, it's not that violent. It's not that, what. But it seems like Europeans always think, oh, the US is so violent, the guns, everything's out of control. And I'm sort of like always defending Americans and all that. But to see this play out on TV, to see this happen, this just really, I think it's that moment where foreigners will look at the U.S. and be like, and amongst themselves be like, you see, that's I feel like that's what they would say to me. It's like, you see, how can you deny it, right? I think it's irrefutable at this point that there's a serious problem with violence and guns in the U.S. once this story broke.
Yeah, I mean, there's one person that was actually killed. Two people were injured. One person was a firefighter. I mean, he has a family, and he was killed by it. So, yeah, I think President Trump was really lucky because
Yeah.
that was like a headshot, to be honest with you. I mean, he turned his head right at the right timing where it
Hmm.
ended up grazing his, ear. I mean,
Yeah.
it didn't even like pierced his ear, I guess. It just kind of grazed it, and that's where you see the a slight bloody bleeding in around his ear. So, but right at the right moment, he turned his head, and if he didn't turn his head, that would have been a headshot. Yeah.
Yeah, that's really crazy. So, just in case you guys haven't followed the news, although I'm sure this is like international headline news, it's that Trump was giving a speech at a rally, an outdoor event in Pennsylvania, in a crowd of 2,000. It was an outdoor event, and some kid climbed up to a roof of a building. Yeah, right. Can you believe, how did that happen? Anyway, clear shot at Trump, missed him by literally like a centimeters, and so that's what happened. But yeah, you're right. That's like fate, right? Like, how was it that he suddenly just turned to look at his presentation or something like that, where he turned his head just at the right time that he dodged the bullet. That is crazy, right? That's
Yeah,
luck.
yeah.
That's luck.
Yeah, you know what the crazy part is with all this happening on that day, there's a lot of Americans saying that, oh, it's a controversy, conspiracy, and was it a Biden? It was a professional hit, and some people didn't even believe it. They thought it was staged, that Trump actually
Oh,
hired
really?
somebody to do that. And yeah, a lot
Oh,
of people have having their different type of point of view.
oh,
And
sure.
afterwards you start seeing a video, and he was actually on a roof not too far, probably like 200 feet away.
Hmm.
And you start to question, how is the Secret Service? I mean, didn't they do their due diligence? Did someone messed up? Did they not do an evaluation in the surrounding area? But they're saying that they only cleared certain parts of the area, and anything beyond that, they really didn't do anything because they tend to. These Secret Service or the people from Washington, they would hire local authorities like the police to help them out. So it's not really a lot of Secret Service that's going to be there. So whoever was in charge, messed up in the protection and making sure that the area is all secured. And there were some people who actually saw this person and saw the rifle, and this kid, which is a 20-year-old male, white male, that was actually on top of the roof. They saw him, and people were yelling and trying to get the Secret Service attention, and nobody did anything until he got like maybe 5 rounds before they actually took him out. Imagine that. I think whether was this plan, whether the Secret Service didn't do anything, they wanted to see, like see if he can, kill President Trump, because a lot of people controversy with President Trump with the election and things like that. Who knows? But he got 5 shots, I believe, and by the time he had that 5 shot, it's like then they took him out. So you start to wonder, why didn't they take him out in the first place? Why did they give him that 5 shots to see if they're gonna, you know, kill former President Trump? Who knows? That's where all the controversy comes place, conspiracy comes to place, etc.
And these questions are that's where we're getting to accountability, right? Accountability of the Secret Service. Like,
Yes.
why didn't why didn't you guys close off that building? Why was somebody, how was somebody able to get to the rooftop of this building with a clear line of sight, like for a direct hit like that? So the building was apparently about like 400 something feet from where Trump was, which is, they say, of 1.5 football fields. I actually don't have a good reference point for how the distance of 450 feet, so I looked it up. And to believe it or not, maybe it's from being in Europe for quite some time now, but I actually understood better when I discovered that it was about 150, 175 meters. So that is like one block, one not very long block. So that
Mm.
definitely should have been, they should have had somebody inspect that area, or at least it should have been part of the security perimeter that they say. That should not have happened. All of this talk now is about this should not have happened, right?
Hmm. Yeah, and they had two snipers. I mean, Secret Services, there were two snipers there. They identified where the shooting was coming to place, and they took them out. And
Yeah,
the
counter
funny
sniper.
thing,
Yeah.
yeah, the funny thing that I can't imagine is why wasn't there any helicopters? There should have been a
Oh yeah, you're
helicopter,
right.
scoping the area,
Or
making sure
drone.
that there's nobody, yeah, or nobody's in the rooftop or anywhere. They should have had something, but they didn't. So, like I said, I think somebody in that hierarchy or someone in that area messed up. Yeah.
Hmm. I mean, look, you and I, we're just our lay opinion, right? Like we're not in
Hmm.
security. We don't know how the Secret Service operate, but even we, just normal people, we're able to identify these security flaws. So it's if
Yeah.
we're able to do that, for them, I'm sure they've done a whole mess of things that are wrong.
Yeah, and that's where accountability comes to place. Like I
Yes.
said, somebody effed up and they didn't do their due diligence, which you question why. I mean, I think even President Biden was saying that they need to ramp up the security because there's a lot of threats or there's possible you know things that may happen because between Biden and Trump during their campaign, it's an ugly campaign. I mean, it's no holds bar, so it's not your normal traditional type of campaigning. So and yeah, it's kind of affects our democracy by this happening. So it's a big thing going on.
Yeah, that's right. I'm glad to hear the Democrats' response is one that is very fair and one that is very neutral. In that they're calling for people to just, and this new buzzword they're using is lower the temperature. Lower the temperature is what they're using, this buzzword, this phrase. Lower the temperature of political discourse, so for people not to be so angry and incensed and turn to violence. So, but that's good that they're taking this opportunity to say that this is, we can disagree, but we must disagree civilly. You don't turn to violence. And
Hmm.
they also acknowledged that this actually is going to probably help Trump, because when you watch the video, you can see, like, the guy's a fighter. I mean, he could, he just got
Yeah,
shot at. He stands up and he's fist pumping. His crowd, they love him for that, right?
yeah. Yeah, I agree too. I mean, Biden did a really good speech to let the people know what's going on. And yeah, I mean, Trump, I don't know if you know it, but Trump is a UFC fan. I mean, he goes to
Um,
UFC events. So he likes watching the MMA fighters, and for him, I mean, he has that kind of a mindset. And afterwards, yeah, like you said, he gets up, he starts uh yelling at the crowds with his fist pump in the air. And what he was saying is, he said three times, "Fight, fight, fight." And that's
yes.
what we need as a leader in the United States, because right now, United States is divided, right?
Hmm.
Democrats and Republicans. So we need kind of a leader. And do we get that from Biden? Honestly, it depends on how you look at it. For me, I don't think so. I think Biden is a different type of leadership, and there's a lot of things that he makes mistakes, and because he's human and he's old. And for me, I find him to be a bit weak. and
Mhm.
Trump is kind of the opposite, and he's there. I mean, he wants to stand in the crowd, and you see the Secret Service trying to put him down, put him inside the car, and I think his energy is all all high at an all-time high, right? So,
Yeah, adrenaline.
um, yeah, his adrenaline, and for me, I think by him going out there and pushing and yelling and saying fight, fight, fight after an assassination attempt, that kind to me kind of shows what a leadership is about. We need that kind of leadership, and the funny thing is, you see, is we're divided, right? Democrats and Republicans. You see this in the news.
Hmm.
Now you're gonna actually witness how well we unite, how well we Americans just come together with this type of incidents. You're going to see a lot of Americans come together. You're not going to see a divided America. So things like this, something that happens like the 9/11, you see people just come together. And I think this kind of event is going to bring us together too. So that's my personal opinion.
Yes, that is true. That perhaps this is a warning shot, right? Perhaps this is a wake-up call to Americans that maybe the rhetoric was too high.
Mhm. Right.
Maybe we are too divisive. I think that we lost sight of the fact that as Americans, we all want the same thing, and while people might disagree, we must not turn to violence in order to get to our point across, or to get people to capitulate, to believe our ideas. And I think that one of the problems, and I think this is being acknowledged by both sides, is that there was too much speech that was apocalyptic, was the word they used, which is basically very severe. Like, if this, then the world's going to end. If this person gets elected, the world is going to end. Or this is, when you speak in such extreme ways, and these consequences, you make it sound so extreme like that, then I think that has the ability to incite people to violence. But I'm not saying that the people who turn to violence to prevent what they perceive as the end of the world is a good thing, but you're dealing with people who mentally are not all there, right? So when you say things like, if this person gets elected, it's the end of the world, well, if this person is already mentally unstable, then you've just given them a reason to act in a way that they think is reasonable. But in fact, it's not reasonable. Do you know what I mean, Leon?
Yeah, exactly. And it's the way how the news media portrays Trump. Like he's going to be a dictator. He's going to be a something with our democracy. He's going to demolish it or destroy it, and kind of having that kind of personality, and the way he talks, and the way they portray him, and a lot of the voters out there and the people are you know thinking different ways, and you have a lot of crazy Americans out there that says, okay, if he's going to be affecting our democracy or he's going to destroy our democracy, then you know maybe need to assassinate him or something, because we have a lot of crazy Americans. And this individual, he happens to be a quiet person. I heard he has a good job. He works at a nursing home. I don't know if he's volunteering, but he also tends to keep to himself. He has very close friends. But look at him. But he was bullied, so that kind of prompts you of why he has that maybe mentality. Because when a person gets bullied in the United States, they're
Mhm.
usually the psychopath or the serial
Yes.
killer. So
Yes. If for no other reason than that, kids got to stop bullying each other because all you're doing
yeah,
is you're creating a psycho killer, and they're gonna come after you and other
yeah,
people. Yeah, so don't
and
bully
that's
people unless you want to be
yeah.
shot.
Yeah, and that's the problem with our culture, right? With America. I mean, w bullying is part of our culture, whether we like
Yes,
it
it's
or not,
terrible.
right?
Yeah, yeah.
Uh, Compared to other countries, yeah, there are bullies. Other countries will say, well, we have bullies. We're not like you crazy Americans. See, a lot of foreigners or a lot of people out there don't understand what our bullying happens in the United States. For example, here in Brazil, when there's a person bullying another child, that friend is going to protect that his friend, and stand up for that bully.
Hmm.
And in United States, when that happens, that friend is gonna shy away or not become his friend anymore and give some distance because that friend does not want to be bullied. So that person who's being bullied will end up being a loner in
Ah,
school. So
yes. Okay.
imagine that, right? I mean,
Uh-huh.
he's going to go to lunch, he's going to go into school all day, no friends whatsoever. That does a mind job, right? And that
Yes.
starts to create your characteristics, your personality, that psychopath mentality. So this is the difference between we Americans. That person just becomes isolated and he's just a loner, like a lone wolf, and no
Hmm.
friends or anything. So of course it's a mind job, and he's gonna want revenge. He's gonna want revenge on society. He's gonna want revenge on the people who bully them, and etc. And that's why you see a lot of school shootings in the United States that happens because of those bullyings, and because the teachers don't do anything either. That's also another thing. Now, I'm not saying all teachers, but a lot of teachers tend to turn a blind eye. Yeah.
Yeah, they're like, this is above my pay grade. I don't think so.
Yeah,
I don't want to be,
exactly.
I'm not going to get involved. I don't want to be the first person shot at. Uh, so the other question now is, so this kid, apparently he got the gun from his dad who owned the gun legally. However, it was an automatic rifle, like military grade. It was like, what is it, like a machine gun? Is that what an AR
No, it
rifle
was a
means?
rifle. It was
Oh,
a
okay.
rifle. Yeah.
Okay, but it was automatic rifle, right?
I don't think it was an automatic rifle.
They call it AR something.
Yeah, it's an AR. I'm not sure if it's an AR-15, but
Uh,
it's an AR. Yeah,
that's it.
that's correct.
I think that's it. AR-15.
Yeah. Hmm.
So this gun apparently it was banned from production some years ago, but I guess the father got it before the production ban. But anyway, so how did the kid get access to this gun? So I know these are questions that non-Americans are thinking. How is it possible that you Americans just have guns laying around that some psycho, maybe your kids, can just so easily access it and then do harm? Because here's the problem, right? Because people who are anti-guns, they're going to be like, okay, obviously there are many ways to kill somebody, not just with the gun. However, the lethality of a gun is so much greater than a knife. We can only throw a knife so far, but I mean guns, I mean that bullet goes far and fast, right? So I think that it's a question that I don't know. I mean, do you get asked this a lot? You're living in Brazil, I'm in Europe. This always comes up in my conversations, where what is it with the guns? Why do you guys have guns just laying around like that?
No, I don't get that question. I think they understand. They just understanding why do you guys own guns? But just a few people would ask that.
Hmm.
It's back to like you mentioned. It's accountability. I mean, it's accountability of the parents. When the parents goes and buys a gun, they need to be accounted for putting it at somewhere safe and maybe locked up in a safe or some cannot access. But parents will just have guns lying around, and maybe a 5 or a 7-year-old picks up the gun thinking is a toy gun, ends up shooting somebody or ends up shooting themselves, and a lot of deaths happens like this in the U.S.
Hmm. Hmm.
Like this kid, assassinator or this assassin basically took this rifle from his dad. That means his dad had it a place, and he knows where it at. He knows where it is, and he ended up taking it, and he ended up using it. So we do a background check. Anybody can really purchase a gun, but of course you have to go through the rigorous background check in order for you to qualify to get a gun and get it licensed. But the problem is there are loopholes. There's some people that shouldn't own a gun, but they end up getting approved for some reason. And then of course you have those illegal guns that you buy places that, whether it's a gun show, vendors may be selling it in cash and turn a blind eye, or maybe from a legal place like smugglers, gun smugglers, or maybe even gang members. So they get a lot of these illegal guns.
So I okay, so I get that. I get that our Constitution guarantees the right of Americans to bear arms, to have guns, without getting into a discussion about the constitutionality of it, because it is constitutional. So, but the problem is that while it may be okay to own a gun, the problem is I think there is a high possibility of misuse, and when it is misused, the consequences are quite bad. like you can misuse other things and it doesn't necessarily lead to death or serious injury. However, when you misuse a gun, it most often leads to very serious consequences. And I think that that is, I think the misuse of a gun is more problematic than the existence of a gun.
Yeah, that's
But
true.
yeah, like we have with this kid, like we have with a lot of people who, here's the thing. You mentioned it. You have to be pre-approved. You have to go through a background check. You have to be approved in order to buy a gun. The problem with that also is that you know you can what you can get approved because you're a normal, you're a sane person. But most of the time, when people turn to gun violence, it is not in a moment of rational thinking. It is not in a moment of sanity. It is in a moment where they're crazed, a moment of heated passion, right? And so I
Hmm.
think that while you might theoretically be mentally sound at the time of purchase, sometimes at the time of use, especially when improperly used, that is not a moment of clarity.
Yeah, and like I own a gun when I was in LA. I mean, I
Mm-hmm,
purchased a 9 millimeter, but
mm-hmm,
I don't own it anymore. I gave
mm-hmm,
that up. But when you own a gun, you actually go to the shooting range and you want to see
mm-hmm.
how powerful that gun is. Once you start shooting a gun, then
Yeah,
you got to respect it.
sure. It's
I
very
mean, it's
powerful.
yeah, it's very powerful, and it's like you go to Texas. I mean, Texas is a state where you don't want to mess with. I mean, that's why they have that slogan, right? Like, don't mess with Texas. And everybody there pretty much has guns carrying. It's not concealed or anything. They literally have it walking around. Some people, I mean, when I was in Texas, I saw a guy with a gun walking around and kind of freaked me out a little bit, when I first time I visited Texas, because in California we don't see that. You're
No.
not licensed to carry a gun, but in Texas, yeah. And you see people carrying guns there and just kind of freaks you out. It's like, oh, is this guy is this guy a crazy guy, or start shooting, then you start considering it as a norm, and then you just go about your business. But in Texas, yeah, a lot of people there has guns, and you never want to mess with people in Texas. And I don't think there's a lot of violence in Texas, right? Because everyone's carrying a gun. You don't see much school shootings and things like that happening in Texas, right?
Oh, I didn't notice that. But I I guess when you're carrying a gun that communicates to people, you know what? Don't mess with me, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Yeah, you want
I,
to invade my house? Well, prepare the consequences. So you don't see
yeah.
much kind of, well, I mean, there is violence. I mean, in the
Sure.
United States, violence is also part of our territory. I mean, but it's not just the United States, it's around the world. So, you just see it more in the news because the United States is a high profile country. So you see a lot of the news about US, and but you go to your own country, I'm sure there's a lot of violence that happens in your country too.
You know what's screwed up about the whole thing of, in Texas, where when people carry a gun, then you're not going to mess with them. I think what's screwed up is that people need to see a gun on another person in order to not mess with them. Like, what's wrong? What's wrong with people?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
how about you just don't mess with people, regardless if
Mhm.
you see them with a gun or without? This is just crazy.
Yeah. And for me, it's like, going back to President Trump, I think he was already winning the campaign. I thought he was gonna win by a landslide before this
Mm-hmm.
assassination
Yeah.
attempt, because a lot of Americans, a lot of voters are not happy with the situation in the United States. But
Mm-hmm.
this incidents with this assassination attempt,
Yeah.
for me, it's like a definitely going to be a landslide. It's like a confirmation that he's definitely going to win, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm.
People are surrounding him, supporting him, and just because of his mindset, his mentality of going out there with his fist pump and saying fight, 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 people draws into that, especially Americans. Yeah,
Well, the whole thing of it now is that people are painting Biden as a weak figure, and you got Trump. You got Trump, and who just had you just dodged a bullet by centimeters. He he stands up and he's just like not gonna take it, right? He's just like fight, and he's not playing the victim. He's not going to change the date of the Republican National Convention. There's no delay. He's not playing the victim in that he, even his statement is very much like, oh no, no, I'm fine, right? He's not being oh, woe is me. So all of that, maybe it's totally calculated, but his response really enforces his posture throughout this whole thing, his position, which is that of strength. And then unfortunately, what it just makes him look even stronger against somebody like Biden, who people are already like, oh, he's suffering from cognitive decline. And this is also bad because I heard Biden's address to the American public in the Oval Office, and when he was talking about Trump, I don't remember what he said, but right off the bat, he already made a gaffe about he called him President Trump. I don't know what he said, but he referred to Trump as something incorrect. And so again, that reinforces his weakness and the strength of a person who just got shot at, but is not playing the victim.
Yeah, and it seems like people are talking that he has Parkinson's disease that he's not disclosing, or maybe he's an
Oh,
early dementia, and
uh-huh.
because he is, I think he's what, 83 years old or 84 years old or something like that. So he
Yes.
is our oldest president in history. Just
Hmm.
imagine that. And even though he's at that age, his health seems to deteriorate.
Hmm.
There are other people who, with that same age, that are still strong, are still going strong. But with him, you can see it. You can see it
Hmm.
deteriorating. And for me, I honestly, I never liked Biden. I've always found him weak. And that cleared it when during the Afghanistan, when he pulled out all the American troops and the soldiers from Afghanistan, and the way he handled it to me was uncalled for. He just took out all the American troops, left all the weapons, the military, even cash that was left there. So for me, it's like, who's going to use all that weapons and the cash? Well, it's going to be ISIS or Al Qaeda, or the Russians, or who knows, all the terrorists that's going to benefit from all that. And the way he handled it, I thought that was very weak, especially if he's a commander in chief. And from that point on, I already knew what was confirmed, that he was a weak leader. My personal opinion.
Hmm. Yes, there's a lot of people that are unhappy with that pullout.
And
A lot
I'm
of
not.
respect,
Mhm.
for Biden, right? Yeah, the guy's 83. He's old. A lot of
Yeah.
respect for him. He had a great run. Unfortunately, yes, I do think that he is suffering from some sort of cognitive decline. And I feel bad for the guy. Honestly, I feel bad for the guy. Like,
Hmm.
I just feel like that could be any of us. If you think about it, we could be 80
Yeah.
something and be like him, which is why I sort of feel bad for him. That doesn't, that doesn't make him a bad person or anything. It just maybe doesn't make him the best leader. That's all. And it's not his fault because we're all headed sort of in that direction. If you think about it,
Hmm.
unfortunately, that's aging. Not everybody suffers from mental disease or whatever as they age, but I'm just saying that we all are less than what we were when we were young, and so I do feel bad for him.
Yeah, I mean, bad decision. The people that he picked to surround him in his administration, all of that plays a part of it. You know, I don't. I'm not favoring Trump. To be honest with you, I don't like Trump or Biden because, Trump he's a wild card. He's
Hmm.
uh, like a what is it, ghost slinger, gunslinger. So with Trump, not many people understands unless you actually live in the United States. Some people think that Trump is, stupid, and the way he talks, and he's not fit to run the country. He's, prejudiced, and they say all kinds of things. But these are what they hear from the media, the news media. But if you
Yeah.
actually live in the United States, you kind of get understanding of Trump. You gotta. Did you work for Trump? In his organization, Trump Real Estate, he has a lot of minorities in his company. So you know that he's not a prejudiced person. I mean, if you're gonna talk about prejudice, I mean, Biden, he supported the leaders of KKK, which is the Ku Klux Klan. I mean, he's been a senator, he's been in the government for over 45, 50 years. I mean, and what has he done? I mean, there's a lot of things that he approved in the bill that this takes a disadvantage to African American. the what is that? The prison system that put in more Black Americans. So it depends on how you look at it. For me, is that Trump is not really a politician. You know, they say, well, President Trump lies a lot. Well, Biden lies too. So all politicians lie. I mean, that's my personal opinion. But you know, the difference that I do like about Trump is he has a business mindset, and I'm from the business industry, so I know what he's doing in terms in the business aspect, and that's the thing that I kind of like about Trump. But other than that, I mean, I don't favor any of them, to be honest with you.
So let me ask you
What
this.
about you?
Li-
Mhm.
well, I
Yes.
think that we can have better candidates on both sides. Unfortunately, for a lot of Americans right now, I think they may not like Trump. However, they also are thinking we cannot elect somebody who is suffering from mental decline. This is the
Yeah.
problem. Is what's going to
Yeah.
happen is I think that people are going to elect a person they don't like because it's not possible to elect a person they do like. That's just we have this is there's a conundrum here. We're kind of stuck right now. You know what I mean?
Yeah, we don't have the candidates that we like. I mean, you go
Yes.
to President Trump, you may end up getting the last president on Trump. He may end up becoming a dictator, the end of our democracy. He can do a lot of, you know, civil war maybe that can happen in the United States that people are talking about if you elect Trump, because he wants revenge. People are going after him. And then on the other side, you got Biden, who's, you know, he's deteriorating his health. You don't know who's going to be the president if he dies in office is going to be his vice president. Kamala Harris is another different person, and nobody wants her to be the president because of what she did in her politics and when she was what district attorney or something like that. So,
Mhm.
um, yeah, I mean, these are the things that we have to go through. So it's a hard case. Do you want somebody who's you know unpredictable and crazy and a friend wants to be friends with Putin versus a guy who you know is aging and deteriorating and you know, another thing too that a lot of people don't like about Biden is the openness of the border, the American border. That means you're letting in maybe people that we don't know or maybe not like actual terrorists, criminals that's entering United States. You saw a lot of uh, rape victims and you know these men or people from Latin America or from other places in the country where they're literally raping and killing some innocent, you know, citizens in the United States, and they're illegal. So a lot of Americans are upset by this. So yeah. And you were
Yeah.
going to ask me
Yes.
something? I didn't know if you were going to ask me something or.
No, no. But I wanted to add to your point of, I mean,
Okay.
obviously Americans commit crimes against other Americans. I mean, obviously, but the problem is that I think that when people who are either anti-immigration or want to be very controlled about it, they're thinking, okay, it's bad enough when an American kills another American, but it's like double bad when an immigrant comes to our country and kills our people. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's what they're thinking,
Yeah.
right?
Hmm.
And you know, it's funny because I hear this too. I hear this from people I talk to in Italy. They're like, "Yeah, our immigration thing is getting out of control. I mean, we're letting people in, and they're committing these crimes. Like, what the hell? Why do we even let them in the first place?" People don't have a problem with people immigrating into their country. The problem happens when it results in crime. It's just like getting a visa to go to
Bad
another
people.
country. It's the same thing
Yeah.
as a tourist.
Hmm.
Uh, if people don't have a problem letting you in to their country, but if you commit crimes and all of a sudden they want nobody from your country, I mean, that's
Yeah.
pretty, I guess that's pretty, if you think about it, that's just self-preservation, you know?
Hmm. Yeah, and you have London, Paris, Germany too. I mean, they're having a lot of immigrants coming
Mm,
into their country and causing a lot of violence, and they don't like it. The
they don't
locals
want
and
it.
the
Yeah,
people that yeah, I mean, it's crazy. I mean, and we United States is one of the biggest countries out there. I mean, compared to like Germany and you know UK or Paris. I mean, or France. We're a big country, and imagine all those immigrants coming there and illegal immigrants, and especially these bad immigrants that wants to cause, you know, harm and evil. and
Yes.
assaults, right? I mean, we're okay if these immigrants who are, has a purpose, like, chase their dreams or get a good job and become part of the American citizen and give back to the society. But if you're having these other immigrants who's causing, complete violence and things, that adds on more violence to what we have, and it's terrible. Yeah.
You know what I always hear from, because like on Clubhouse we talk to people from all over the world, right, Leon? And so
Yes.
what I hear from a lot of people from other countries is they want to move to the US for better opportunity, for better jobs, to make more money, blah blah blah. But you know what I've noticed is that they all say what they want. They want from the US. They want it. They're
Yeah.
takers. But what are you going to give to the country? See, here's the thing, that
Exactly.
it's not that we don't want you to come, but how about you come with more fair-minded, like, okay, we want this, we want opportunity, but at the same time, how are you going to help this country be a better place? I never hear
Hmm.
people talking like that. I never hear people saying how what they can contribute,
Yeah.
only the benefits they can reap. So it does sound a lot sometimes like they just want to come and eat the fruit off of our trees. But what are you going to do to help that tree keep growing? Right?
Right.
I
Yeah.
don't hear that. I just hear that they want the benefits of the US, but I don't hear
Hmm.
how they're going to contribute to the US being
Hmm.
better.
Yeah, I agree with that 100%. And I'm not saying all immigrants are like that, but I'm saying the majority of them are. And the problem with the majority of the immigrants that come to the United States is, like you said, they come for better opportunities, get the salary, the benefits of United States, and then when they reach a certain age of retirement or something, or once they meet their goal, they go back to their country. But within the time that they're living in the United States, they really don't give back to the society. If there's a protest or something that relates to minorities or things like that, you don't see them coming there. They're just like in their own home, watching the actual news and the protests, and they're not going to take part. But when something happens in their country or in their ethnicity, then they come out to the public and to the news and they say, where are these Americans and this, where's the support? But where were you when other ethnicity or race were doing the protest? So what they do is they just take the advantage what they want for themselves. And the way I see it is kind of like these type of people, I'm not saying all people, it's kind of a raping the United States. The way maybe it may not sound good, but I'm giving my
Sure.
personal,
Okay.
opinion. But it's
Yeah.
like raping our country, because what they're doing is they're going there, they're taking the money, and then they're taking what they want, and then afterwards, hey, see you later. Yeah, I pay tax and all this, but I really don't care. I'm taking this money and I'm taking all this cash and bringing it to my country. So you're really not using a lot of that cash to my country, to United States. You're just going to use that and bring it to your country and live off of that benefits that you took, advantage of United States, but you really never gave back to the United States. So the way I look at it is kind of raping in that kind of way. But I mean, it may sound harsh. You may
Mhm.
disagree with me. You can
Yeah.
put your comments and such, but that's just me in my standpoint. And a lot of Americans feel that way too. Yeah.
Yes, I think that is sort of what people feel, what Americans feel when they're like, we need to tamp down the immigration because we feel taken advantage of. I think that's where Americans are coming from when they say we need to control immigration, is because they feel like people are taking advantage. I'd like to know your opinion, so leave your comment, please. Let us know what you think of what we just said. Do you want to come to America for your own personal benefit, or have you even thought about what you can do for this country? Or maybe you're thinking, do I have to do anything for this country? Maybe you don't even think you need to. But anyway, we'd like to know. Leave a comment. Also, while you're doing that, click the subscribe button and also click the bell and select all. So, in this podcast, thank you for joining us. We're talking about violence in America. We sort of got sidetracked a little bit, but it's a very good evolving discussion. This started with talking about the assassination attempt, excuse me, of former President Trump over the weekend, and just the fact that there is so much violence, there's so much gun violence, and violence overall in America. I think that this was a moment where foreigners, non-Americans from other countries are looking at America and saying, you see, I know that people are saying that. I know people are thinking that. People have said that to me many times. I live in Europe. Many people have said to me, America is so dangerous. And I think it's that moment where foreigners can legitimately say, you see, and I know they're going to be saying that to me. Um, so going back to violence in America, do you think that, okay, let me ask you this. You're living in Brazilian. Do
Yeah.
Brazilians think that America is dangerous? Because I know that a lot of people think Brazil is dangerous. So let's
Yeah,
compare.
they think United States is dangerous, but not nowhere near like Brazil. I mean, if
Okay.
you Google it or something like that, if you Google the most dangerous cities or country around the world or something like that, I mean, the cities in Brazil is probably going to be like maybe 4 to 5 cities of the top 10
Hmm.
in Brazil. So it's a very violent city. But again, part of that violence is really is among themselves. When I say themselves, between the crime lords, the drug dealers, the smugglers, and all that. There's not a whole lot of crossfires. Yeah, I mean there are violence that someone will get robbed or petty type assault and things like that. And if you don't listen to the robbers, maybe you get shot or killed, who knows? But yeah, I mean, there could be domestic violence too, but United States has the same too. So, but yeah, I mean, and Brazil is in the top 10 in terms of a lot of the cities. United States, I think, is can be ranked there. I mean, you got Washington D.C., you got like New Orleans is probably the number one most violent cities in the United States. People get, Detroit is not number one anymore, but they
Hmm.
kind of have that kind of stereotype that Detroit is number one. Washington, D.C. is another place that it's a very violent city. Then you got the bigger cities like inner cities like Chicago, New York, L.A. These are violent places. But there's yeah, everywhere you go in the United States, I mean, don't get me wrong, there's a lot of positivity that happens in the United States, except, if you're going in the wrong place at the wrong time and it's just your time, you're gonna encounter it. But if you do your due diligence and know your surroundings and always keep track of what's surrounding you, I think you can avoid these type of violence.
So yes, it just depends on where you are because I feel like in every American city, there is that area where it's very dangerous, and then there are perfectly safe areas, and it just really depends. But that is to be expected in every American city. There's it's going to be good area or bad area, and then of course there are certain cities where it's predominantly bad. Um, Unfortunately, you and I had discussed this before that unfortunately poverty and crime are very much linked in America, and this is an unfortunate thing. And I really think that's bad because I noticed that in Europe, just because a place is poor, just because the area is economically depressed, does not mean that people are going to be shooting each other and killing each other and all. But in the U.S., it kind of does mean that, doesn't it?
Yeah. I mean, if you're in certain parts, I mean, the reason is because these big inner cities that deals with a lot of these crimes is really is the gangs, the gang
Mhm.
members. I
Ah,
mean,
yes,
a lot of the gangs that happens from LA, the Bloods, the Crips, right? These are the two biggest gangs. Well, actually, in the Mexican mafia, right? In LA.
sure.
So these are like the top gang members in LA, and they ended up branching out. So they ended up moving a lot of their organization, as you can say, their crime organization, and they
Mhm.
moved it to bigger cities like Chicago and New York. Now you see the Bloods and the Crips in different type of cities. New York, they got like the Latin Kings and things. Funny thing is too, even in LA, we have gangs from Asian gangs or Latin gangs or whatever gangs, the race, the ethnicity. There's gangs in LA, you know, whether
Mhm.
they're from El Salvador, whether from Honduras, whether from Mexico, maybe even from like China, Japan, Philippines. I mean, there's gangs in that ethnicity background. Italians, right? The mobs, the
Yes.
Irish. I mean, it
Yeah.
goes back in history. So, but yeah, I guess violence is part of our culture. During going back to what the Italian mobs, right? Yeah,
Yeah.
the prohibition, right?
Maybe it is part of the fabric of our country, because I think I said this in another podcast, that I think that there's just, you know, there's just everything in this country, good or bad. We've got it all here. Unfortunately, the bad as well.
Yeah, and they bring it from their own. I mean, we have a lot of immigrants, right, coming into the United States, migrating in the United States, and a lot of these immigrants are from Italy and from Ireland, and they brought their culture. And when they brought their culture, they brought the violence too, and that's why you see a lot of the Irish mafia in Boston and East Coast, or the Italian mafias in Chicago and New York. I mean, these are immigrants, and they brought their culture, and it just became the violent in United States, you know. And you got
Hmm.
in the West Coast, you got some of the, what is it, the Yakuza from Japan, or the Triad from China. They bring their violence too. Like you go to San Francisco, they came from Hong Kong. You know, there's Asian gangs there, or LA, there's a lot of gang members there too from Asia. So yeah, I mean, it's crazy. It just brings it from different parts of the world.
Hmm. Right. Again, it's just, we've got the good and we've got the bad. So, where are you going to be following the Republican National Convention? I think it's happening tonight.
Yeah, I'm gonna try, if I don't have any classes, if I can watch it live or something like that, just to see what,
Yeah,
what the Republicans say about the assassination attempt, and also
sure.
former President Trump, what he has to say about his incidents. I'd like to see that. So, yeah, I'll probably watch the recording, maybe not the live, because I'll maybe be in class or something. So we'll see how that goes. What about you?
Oh yes, I do want to see. I want to see how they're going to spin all this and what they're going to say, how they're going to respond to this. But what's really interesting, speaking of the, again, of the violence, is that, and guns, is that so in the state of Wisconsin, they you cannot prevent people from carrying guns. So as I understand it, you can carry a gun in the area of where the Republican National Convention is going on. I don't have the full details about this, but you're permitted to do that. But like, for example, you can't bring in a bottle of water or something like that. I heard something crazy like that. I don't know. But yeah, so Wisconsin has in their constitution something about you cannot forbid people from carrying a gun. So,
Yeah, Milwaukee, I think that's where it's being held, right? Milwaukee is one of the most violent cities, if people don't know.
oh, is
Same
it? I
thing with
didn't know.
Nashville. Nashville is another violent city.
Really?
Nashville, yeah,
Didn't
Nashville,
know that.
not many people think about that, right?
Yeah.
Nashville is like country music and all that, but yeah, Nashville, there's a high violent crime there too. So, because of what's going on with the United States, right? Because people are struggling. People needs to survive.
Yeah.
People has dreams that they can't reach, like the American dream, right? So
Mhm.
they end up, like young kids, and they portray rap music, and they see like these rap artists, portraying violence, and they have the jewelries and the nice cars and a nice house, and you got a 8-year-old who wants to do that too. So in order to get some cash, and whatever their situation is, they turn to crime. Yeah,
Yes, that is unfortunate.
it's a sad thing. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Okay, so well, I think this is a good time to wrap up. Thank you everybody for listening to the end. Please give this video a thumbs up, and also please subscribe to our channel, and also click the bell and select all, and that way YouTube will show you future videos that we upload. And also let us know your opinion on anything we've discussed in this video by leaving a comment. Thank you so much, everybody. Leon, thank you so much. It was a very good conversation.
Yeah, thanks, Ben. Thanks for having me. See you, everyone. Ciao.
Yep, bye-bye.